X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we normally rank every story from A to Z, but we're not going to do that this week. Instead, I'm Zach, This is Adam. By the way, Adam,
Hi.
say hi.
Hi, I'm Adam.
Adam's here, and we also have with us, friend of the show, senior editor at Marvel, head of the X-Men line, not head of X according to the credits, but I'm sure he's working on fixing that, Jordan D. White. Jordan, how we doing today?
I'm doing great. Just a quick editorial comment, a little note for you. If you're ranking them A to Z, there's no judgment because that's alphabetical.
Yeah,
It's just a joke because my name starts with.
he gets it. He's giving us a
know
hard
that.
time.
But that
Today we're ranking them from J to D to W.
well, that's not in order at all. So that
Yeah,
makes
no,
no sense.
It doesn't ever make any sense.
Listen, we're just kind of vibing here. We're just kind of enjoying X-Men comics mostly, other comics too.
But hold on. Sorry. I'm just going back to my dumb joke. It does make me wonder how long it would take people to realize you were doing it that way. If you were like every single time you just put it into the list alphabetically and we're like, I think I'm going to put this right under this other one with a very similar name. And people would probably be so mad at your judgments that it would take them at least a while to figure out that it was just alphabetical.
It's like when people rank Star Wars.
Yes, and they do it
in
chronological
order.
I love it. Well, and listen, I don't want to talk about Twitter so much, but one of my favorite tweets I ever did was the one where I tweeted about the actual absolute for real ages of all X characters. And I put the amount of time that passed since they debuted. And it took people a little bit of time. Great. It was fun.
Oh.
Well, it is great to have you here, JDW. I think as we said before we started recording, we last caught up with you before the pandemic in February in Chicago.
That's crazy.
I believe
it's been
moments after Ten of Swords was announced.
Yeah. And here we are after the 22-part massive crossover event. So how you feeling about all that?
Great. And relieved. Like it was, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I really like it a lot. But it was so much work. And thinking about how long it took us to do it is crazy. It literally is crazy because you're saying February, but at some point I was looking at, I think right around the time when we finished the last issue, sent it to press, I was looking at when we got the first like document for it. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember now, but I'm pretty sure it was like the very beginning of November of 2019. So we literally worked on this thing for a full year.
And no changes happened in that time, right? This is right from the start, exactly the vision that you originally intended for this.
No, not even close. I mean, when I say document, it kind of would be fun to look at that document again, but I don't remember even what was in it. Like it wasn't a play-by-play. It didn't have a beat-by-beat breakdown of the story. It just would have had rough ideas of the story. And like definitely multiple times throughout the making of this, we got together as a group and came up with crazy nonsense that changed everything. I mean, if the last time we talked was when we announced it, that's right. The day after C2E2, we had an X Summit, everybody in a room, yes, with an omelet bar or an omelet cook.
the famous omelet cook.
And we beat out a bunch of the stuff in that meeting. So there was a bunch of things that did not exist when I talked to you last that now have been come up with, executed, and read by the public already.
So that original draft was a lot closer to like a bar napkin that just had scribbled on it, "What if we gave them swords?"
I'm trying to even think if it no, it definitely had that. It must have had that. I don't remember when Teeny came up with the name Ten of Swords, but as soon as she did, it was like, oh, that's awesome. I think it was before that.
It's very good. And one thing that really stood out about that event and then this whole Krakoa era, in general, is that this line has some incredible artists who are working on it right now. Ten of Swords Destruction came out. Pepe Larraz, Marte Gracia doing the colors was absolutely fantastic. A incredible suite of people doing everything else in that event. And one thing that's kind of come up in our minds, just walking through, I think there's been a lot of discussion going on about how you cast a writer for a book, through the pitching process and things like that. What's your process for casting an artist on a book?
Well, that's very complicated. So one of the big reasons that is different than casting a writer is that while a writer can probably write a few books at once, an artist cannot draw a few books at once, or unless they're, I don't know who does that nowadays. Camo, I think, still does it. Giuseppe Camicoli is pretty prolific, but most artists have to obviously focus on one book at a time. It's a rare artist nowadays who can even draw a book in a month. So most of the time you need more than one artist on a monthly book. So that changes things because we're not a creator-owned book that is just making decisions in a vacuum. We're part of Marvel, and so Marvel has a relationship with all of these artists. And so one of the big factors that I think not everybody would know about is that there is a discussion of what is the best thing for Marvel with these artists, if you know what I'm saying. Like, so whether it is best for Marvel to keep Pepe in the X office or to have him go do another book or things like that. Now, obviously, of course, the editors and the writers and the artists themselves all have says in these says. Have says in these things? That doesn't sound right, but
have a say.
They each have a say individually in this. But I'm just saying that's a big part of it that I think a lot of people don't even realize happens, is that there has to be a kind of negotiation of that. Because definitely I can go, oh, you know who's a good artist is this guy, but it's like, oh, but he's already working on Chip's Daredevil for the next 6 months, or this person is going to be free in 2 months. Like, is that too late to start the series? And so there's a lot of scheduling and a lot of working with our talent management team who work closely with the artists to get them set up with work and in their relationship with Marvel, as I said. But then beyond that, it comes down to us talking about the feel and the tone of the book and what kind of a vibe we want them to have. And of course, personal relationships enter into it as well. There are artists and writers who have great relationships and work well together and want to work together more. Jerry and Phil are good friends. So they love
Jerry Duggan and Phil Noto,
yes.
Writer and artist on Cable.
Yeah. They've worked together a ton over the years. They did a book at Image before Jerry ever did Deadpool called Infinite Horizon. It's a very beautiful book. And so, yeah, they've been working together for ages. So any chance they get, they want to work together. And that's true in various combinations all over the line and all over the industry. So there's a whole lot of factors. Mostly we start with a book we know is going to happen. We say, all right, I'm trying not to say new books that haven't been announced yet.
Say Sword. We can say Sword.
We'll
Sword's
get
not
there.
out. Sword's not out.
Sure, I'll say Sword because it's a name. But although it's pretty clear how we got,
we can come up with other names, Jordan.
No, that's fine. Okay,
Untitled Moira book. All this stuff. We can figure it out.
We say, okay, we know we're going to do a Maggot ongoing. So
yes. Okay. Perfect. Yep.
And we talk.
Getting that ready.
And we go to Alan Moore and we say to him, what kind of a feel are you going for in your Maggot book? And he says to us, it's going to be like a real slapstick comedy. And so we go into we start thinking about it.
Pitch, by the way.
And we go to our guys in talent management and we say, if we have, and of course, if I or Alan have suggestions for a specific artist to look into, we'll look into them specifically.
Right,
but otherwise, we'll go to our talent management group and we'll say, here's the kind of thing we're looking for. Like, we know we'll have script here. We know we have to launch here. Who in the talent pool that we're working with, or new people, because they definitely are always, Ricky Purdon is always scouting for new talent, not by going to conventions right now, but by looking in his email and reading lots of PDFs. And so he'll frequently show us new folks that we've never seen before, and we'll go, oh, that person's good. Oh, that person doesn't fit, or things like that. Well, names will get thrown out. We'll bring those names back to Alan Moore. I really shouldn't continue this because somebody's going to believe Alan Moore's writing an X book. It's not true.
I want to be very
I've never
clear.
spoken to Alan Moore. I've never met Alan Moore. I would love to meet him.
I feel like anyone who knows Alan Moore is aware enough that this is fiction.
Right.
So we go back to the writer and we say, here's some suggestions we have. What do you think of these? And then we'll go back and forth. And that's because we respect them. It's not because the writer is the most important. It's like they don't get to that final call. I don't want to make
the
it sound
original
like...
writer doesn't get any of the final decision in this Maggot ongoing series.
Well, I don't want to make it sound too positive to them or too negative. I love my writers and I respect them, and that's why I want to engage with them on every level and collaborate with them on every level. So I do want to know very much, do you think this person will fit what you're going for? But at the same time, I don't want to make it sound like I just gave complete control over to them. And if you want a job as an artist, bug the writers more. No, that's not how it is. They don't have final yay or nay. They have input. It's a whole collaboration. And then if we get a name that we all think sounds good, we reach out to that person and we say, do you want to do this book? Here's what it is. Here's what it's about. Here's the writer. Here's the schedule. What do you think? Can you make this work? And hopefully they say, yes, I'd love to.
I think that's very interesting because I think that's something that there's a lot less transparency on, partly because of, there are multiple artists on a book. So it's not just one consistent voice, even if you're trying to match tones stylistically and things like that.
That's a hard thing to reckon with. I mean, I worked on Deadpool for a long time.
Right.
And I worked on Deadpool for something in the realm of like 5 years as the editor. And in those 5 years, we did minimum 18 issues a year. Mm-hmm. So, for example, on the Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn written Deadpool, we always had 3 art teams going. But I took a lot of pride in the fact that to make that machine run smoothly, like we had, not for the entire time, but we tried to keep consistent art teams. And I don't mean consistent style. I meant like the same teams coming back over and over again. So unfortunately, Tony Moore only launched it. But then Mike Hawthorne was our next ongoing guy. And he stayed on all the way through to Jerry's last issue. Scott Koblish as well. Technically did an issue before even Hawthorne did, but he didn't mostly do arcs at the beginning. He just did the fill-in issues. So the two of them kept going the entire time, and then we brought in other artists. Declan Shalvey did an arc. A bunch of people did various arcs. It's a pretty good arc.
That one's a pretty good one.
It's a good one. Like, it's a good one.
That's the one that we would be willing to rank on this list.
Well, wait, why wouldn't you rank all of them? I don't understand.
Because
Deadpool's not an X-Men.
Deadpool's not in your office. That's the rules we're using right now.
That's actually not true.
Oh.
What?
Jake Thomas, the editor of Deadpool, now works for me.
Is this?
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and he brought Deadpool with him. So the Deadpool book is now under my office umbrella again.
So Deadpool's an X-Men again. That's what we're hearing?
I mean, he's also an Avenger.
Sure. He's also King of Staten
An
Island.
uncanny Avenger.
No, he was a...
He was a legit card. I don't know anything about it.
Yes, in Axis, he got his Avengers card. I remember it very specifically.
He was an uncanny Avenger, mostly. But yes, he did get his card. And, I mean, he also... I think technically... I don't know that he was ever an X-Man, but there was definitely an issue where they asked him to come help on something, and he was like, no, but that officially counts as you asking me to be an X-Man.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's that Fabian...
No...
Isn't it that?
Oh, it might have been in that too. I was thinking of the time in Jerry's run.
That's when he needs their help. They need his help later with something with, I think, Mercury. I don't remember. It's in the Daniel Way art run, and I've not actually. read that.
No, I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking It was definitely in Jerry's run. The scene I'm talking about because he was at the Xavier School. He was at the Jean Grey School, I should say.
Right.
Dropping off the genetically modified.
Yes,
X-Men.
the ones from that Declan Shalvey Good, Bad, and Ugly arc.
And then they asked him to like go help with something, and he was like, anyway, this is all silly. Deadpool's not actually currently an X-Man, and he's definitely not a mutant.
If there's one thing people on this podcast really love, it's when we talk about Deadpool. So I'm sure that they will.
You want to do more? We could do more on Deadpool.
I am woefully behind on Deadpool. I've not gone back and reread Jerry's run, which is something I've legitimately had on my list of things to do this year because, well, I've had a lot of time to read comics, Jordan.
I'm so proud of it. I really am. I love that run so much. So if you ever do go back and reread it, feel free to ask me to come blab about it for 20 years because I'm so proud of it.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Why did we? I don't. That was a huge tangent. I don't know how we got on
it out. No, we've got this is whole content. This is good. These are headlines.
Yeah, you were talking about
artists, our teams.
Yeah, you were talking about kind of like the revolving. Arcs
you have to plan for it. You have to plan for it.
Yep.
The ideal situation is to be able to have teams that will be able to keep coming back. That's not always possible for various reasons, but that's the best way to do it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep.
All right, so let me keep it in the art zone.
The art zone.
And Zach is going to get angry because I'm skipping ahead on our questions.
Are you?
But
that's fine. I don't care.
I'm just looking at Destruction. 40 pages of what I would consider the most gorgeous comic book art I have probably ever seen. I am on the record. I think Pepe Larraz is hands down the best in the biz right now.
Agreed.
I want him drawing X-Men for the rest of time. But obviously when you are getting artwork of that caliber, it's got to take a lot of time. And I think it was just from, sort of like backseat quarterbacking here. It's like a very smart decision to have him do the bookends and the center book. But how much time in advance do he and Marte have to actually put the book together?
I mean, well, if you're talking about Destruction, like,
yeah,
they finished
even
right before it went to press. Like they finished very recently.
Okay.
Creation they had done significantly early, and same with to a lesser degree the middle one, Stasis.
Which
Stasis. Yeah.
Creation, Stasis, and Destruction. Those three things everyone knows goes together all the time.
Well, from now on, that'll be the thing. Wait, I'm telling you, I bet you. Within 5 years, I'm not going to say this because I don't actually think it's going to. I was going to say within 5 years there will be a Spider-Man event with a Creation, Stasis, and Destruction, but I don't think that's actually true. I would love it.
Spider-Verse, Destruction.
But
actually,
like I said, I mean, with regarding the names, we were just mostly we were like, we're super sick of Alpha and Omega. It's been done to death, and what do you do as the middle one?
Yeah.
So we're just going to come up with something new.
Pick a Greek letter.
yeah. We didn't want to do an epsilon in the middle. We just didn't think it would be a good idea. So Pepe. So yeah. But that being said, so he was working on it since. I mean, you could do the math yourself. I don't have the dates in front of me, but the last thing he did before Creation was the Empire Avengers.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Got a lot of vines there. He's drawn a lot of vines.
Loves those plants.
And if I remember correctly, I don't think I'm speaking out of school to say, I think he finished that relatively close to when that went to press as well. So I would say immediately after that, we started him working on Creation, and he's been working on the Ten of Swords consistently since then. As Destruction was coming in, we were literally murdering him because I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say that it didn't come in as a full script. It didn't. The entire thing wasn't written at once, so we gave him a little piece at a time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Don't tell anybody I told you that.
Don't tell their listeners.
No, listeners, you can hear it, but they are forbidden to speak of it.
Everyone's
fair
sworn
enough.
to secrecy.
It's a thing that happens sometimes, especially with giant projects that you're working on and putting so much work into. So anyway, the point is he would get whatever chunk of pages he was getting at a time. And as you could see from that issue, it would be like, here's another chunk of pages, and it'll be like, another army shows up. And he was just like,
Right.
What are you doing to me? Why? Why do you hate me? And we were like, we don't. We know you're going to draw the best 5 armies fighting that has ever been drawn. It's going to be great.
At any point in any of the scripts were any of the armies on horses, and did he yell at you very hard about that till it got changed?
I don't think. No, I think there was only one very specific horse, and that was not in his issue. That was in Hellions. I don't think there were very many horses in this.
It was a good horse. I missed that.
Princess Silvermane. We love Silvermane. Now, aside from Pepe, Zach mentioned before, you got an amazing roster of artists on these books. I think Phil was doing some outstanding work just across the board. But the one that really stood out to me, and I mean, I've been loving Josh's work on X-Force, but I feel like Josh Cassara really stepped it up. And I'm just curious.
You mean that guy? You mean that guy over there that's got the maggot
who drew your maggot on the wall?
At the Krakoan Tiki Bar? Yeah.
Yes,
he's great.
That Josh Cassara.
Josh is amazing. I consider us incredibly lucky that we got a hold of Josh when we did. If I remember correctly, you want to talk about casting. If I remember correctly, he had been doing Venom issues. I think he was a swing guy on Venom, and
okay. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, it's been a while. Obviously, so this was before X-Force started. Mm-hmm. But we were casting X-Force. We were looking into folks, and talent management brought us, mentioned him to us and said, check out this guy's art. Like, we really think he's going places. Like, he's really impressed us. And we agreed. We were like, oh, this is really awesome. And like I said, I think we're incredibly lucky because we got him, and then I think he's only gotten better since then, and I think everyone is realizing it.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're thrilled, and he is constantly pushing himself to even get better and to top himself. That aforementioned Tiki Bar scene, I'm pretty sure that was all him wanting to do that. I mean, I think it was him and Ben talking, came up with the idea, but he was the one who was like, I want to do a giant scene with a zillion characters in it. That's the kind of thing that a lot of times
you usually hear from an artist, right?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that a lot of times you wait for an artist to say it before you put it in a script. Now, again, we didn't do that to Pepe. We just buried him in characters, but
and throw Gwenpool in there.
I'm very happy that he did.
I am not joking. I got that page and I legitimately screeched at my desk and said, "Okay, hold on. I've got to keep this to, professional." And then I immediately messaged Leah and said, "I'm screaming right now. She made it."
Yeah, that's where she lives now, man. She's on Krakoa.
It's her home. She retconned herself into being a mutant. It's great. Everyone likes it.
So yeah, Josh is great.
The thing is, legitimately, I love the writers and all that stuff that's on the books. It's great. Stories are good. The artistic talent that's on the book, even the people who are doing one-offs or, aren't the biggest names in terms of, commercial appeal to, the general audience on some of these books, they're incredible. The work that's being done is outstanding. Well,
it's funny because we've been in an era for a while now where, in some ways, the writers are the dominant force, in storytelling. Right. And I think that is because of the stuff we talked about at the beginning about that writers can write every issue of a book when an artist usually can't draw every issue of a book.
Right.
And there are times when efforts are made, like the fact that Josh and Ben communicate so closely on that, and the fact that Phil and Jerry are good friends, and over on that Venom stuff, that Ryan and Donnie are on the phone all the time, like they collaborate really well, and when that can happen, that's great. But even in those cases, most of those cases anyway, there have to be other artists brought in. So I think as for the readers, they view the writers as the kind of through line,
right?
But that's funny because in some ways, the opposite is true in that I think it's much easier. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is true, and you guys can be my sounding board on this. I think that
we will.
It's more likely that someone will be satisfied buying a really well-drawn book that isn't that great of a story than a really great story that looks terrible.
I agree. I know that not everyone would agree, but I agree.
Listen, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but I know there are comics that I look forward to because it's like, well, I don't really care much about the story, but there are pretty pictures in this one.
and unfortunately, the opposite is true. I definitely won't name any names here, but there are writers who I love who have collaborated with artists that I don't like their art. And so I'll start reading the book and I'll just be like, I can't do this. I don't like the way it looks.
Yeah.
And that power, like that is what makes comic books comic books. These aren't novels. These writers can all write novels and then it would be them making us like or not like the story. But the thing that makes it comics is that art. And that's why it has, I think, more power to bring the readers around. So you're absolutely right to say that as much as I love all of my X-writers, the artists are the star of Ten of Swords. They are the ones who made this thing work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's what makes Destruction kind of feel like X-Men Endgame in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like every page flip was another like, oh, whoa. Like it was a really, really satisfying conclusion.
Staying on Ten of Swords, this event had a pretty interesting structure. Not just with the names of Destruction and Stasis and all that, but it starts out, the first 2 issues are set up of, hey, this is the story, these are the stakes. And then it goes right into a bunch of character pieces. They still move the story forward, they still do stuff, but they are very much about an individual or a group. So like that New Mutants issue that's about Doug and magic. The Storm issue that's about, hey, this is Storm. She's really cool. You remember her? She's got a very good sword now. And then the book pivots very hard into Otherworld, which I know there are a lot of fans of Otherworld, myself included, who are like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do some Saturnine stuff. This is great. And I know there were people who did feel like there was a bit of a whiplash here. Was there consideration given to that structure in trying to balance? How did you sort out on that being the way you wanted the event to look like?
That's a good question. So let's see. Pardon me. We're very fortunate that we were able to do this relatively quickly. Now, I know for some people who didn't enjoy it, they would say 22 issues was not quickly, but I mean in time. Like I said,
2 months.
Right. It was just over 2 months. Most weeks, 3 chapters came out in the same week. Not every week, but a lot of the weeks that happened. So
listen, as a guy who was editing 3 different chapters of this on Tuesday night after my recording, I was very happy about those 1 or 2 weeks. I'll tell you that.
So exactly. So we took that was a big part of why we did things the way we did. If this was going to play out over 22 weeks, first of all, I don't even know that we would have done 22 chapters if it was only going to be 1 a week. But we did, it would have felt different. We would have made some different decisions. The fact that we knew it could happen quickly allowed us to lean a little bit more into viewing it as one story. And I know that so people's opinions would be very colored though by, well, I read the issues that came out this week and here's how I feel about it, because of course that's what they're doing. But we were going, yeah, but we're still kind of viewing this as just one thing, and it's what matters is how you feel about it when it's over.
Right.
So, as an example, you mentioned that at the beginning it has all these character stories, and I know that over the first couple weeks, there were folks saying, during the sword quests, so to speak, that they were saying like, they said this is 22 parts, but these are all completely unrelated. This is just a story about Storm. This is just a story about Wolverine. This is just a story about that. And my reply, I didn't really reply to them, but my internal reply that I'm saying to you now.
You've learned.
Yes. My response to that now is, yes, in the way that chapters of a novel will do that. In the way that if you're reading a novel that has 10 main characters that are going to all end up dovetailing together, at the beginning of the book, you might read a chapter about one character in the supermarket, and the next chapter is a chapter about somebody playing football, and you're like, football and supermarket have nothing to do with each other. No, but we'll get there. And and in addition, I mean, I think I hope, assuming that we did a good job, and I think we did, but assuming that we did, that would become clear by the end, because you look at things like, well, all the stuff that happened with Wolverine and Solemn in the Wolverine book that became important, and the fact that Cable going up there and meeting a bunch of aliens actually turned out to be pretty relevant to everything in the long run, because they needed that knowledge, and they needed, and also the emotional stuff is also a big part of it. We want to give the characters personal and emotional stakes. And then the pivot to Otherworld. So, like, I know I've talked in the past about how we expanded it from our original plans. But I will say that shape of it was always the case. It's not like we originally were only going to do half of either the first half or the second half. It was always going to be a middle point where it shifts from one to the other. It's just that in that version, they would have had to get more than one sword per issue, and the tournament would have been even faster.
So we would have lost beautiful moments like Gorgon just really, really going at a rock.
Well, you didn't see him do it.
But yes,
you would have. There probably would have been.
It's like
fewer.
a horror movie monster. It's better when you don't see everything and you have to just
it.
fill in the gory details.
Yeah. And I mean, and again, a lot of that
coming through as the all-star.
I know you guys have talked to a number of folks in the X room, so I'm sure they've talked about the interactions we have to various degrees. But like, we're a really connected writers' room, so to speak. Like we're on Slack every day, making dumb jokes, but also working, and we are in a Zoom call every 2 weeks where we get together and touch base. And, you know, during Ten of Swords, that did become like very important, because we had to really, so that everybody could give notes on each other's issues and make sure that everything lined up. And so that when we would get into the Zoom calls, we could really focus on planning things and being like, what are the important beats that need to make sure we're hit? Like what things are not clear enough that we need data pages to expound on? What's the verdict on this? What's the verdict on that? And like, yeah, there was just so many moving pieces and everybody needing to pull in the same direction. And it was, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was hard. It was the most work I have done on a story probably ever. Like, I can't think of anything I've done that was this intensive. Because again,
So,
even
Jordan-
House of X and Powers of 10, like, because it's just working with Jonathan, there was a lot of work that went into it, but it was straightforward, back and forth. You and me were doing this.
So do you find, I mean, we had Teeny on recently. We talked a lot with her about the writer's room aspect of what you guys have going on right now and how cool that is, and everybody giving each other notes. Despite how tight-knit that is, does it make it more complicated when you're telling a story this big to make sure that you've got everything packed in and everybody gets their say?
Oh yeah, listen, it is incredible. So I'm trying to think about the ones of these I've been involved in the past. And first of all, I've never been involved with one this big. Like, I don't know if I don't know if there's ever been one that
There
was
aren't
22
many
chapters
that are
before.
that big.
Right. I you know what? I worked on Battle of the Atom. Again, not 22 chapters, but it was another one of these, right? And I think back on how we did that, and I don't know, because we didn't have what we have now. We didn't have all the writers in constant communication. I think it was probably a little bit more, here's a locked in outline. Here's what everybody needs to deliver on. Now, here's the chunk you're doing. Take that, make it into a comic, and bring it back. And whereas this one, yeah, like, it was, everybody really was like reading and commenting on each other's issues the whole time. And, it was, it was incredibly difficult. I think that everybody likes working together so much and likes the stories that we're telling together so much that they were willing to put in the extra work on it. Because it also involves, you know, putting aside their stories to some degree. You know, everybody was doing their own thing. We are collaborating when everybody's writing their own comics. We're all reading each other's work and we're all talking to each other all the time, but it's not, we don't have to check it with each other. You know what I mean? It's not like,
Sure.
We don't give an issue of Marauders to Teeny and go like, make sure this makes sense to you. But we might do that in Ten of Swords. Like, everybody please read this, because we want to make sure all the sides of the jigsaw come together.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. I know we've talked a lot about the present, and we've talked a little bit about the past. Want to talk just a smidge, just a little bit about the future that's coming up. So there's a new era that's coming out of Ten of Swords. Mm-hmm. What's that era called again, Jordan?
I see what you're doing here, and here's the thing: it's Reign of X. It's Reign.
Okay. Okay.
But I
Thank
do
you
think
for settling that.
Yes. Listen, that said, say what you want.
Is it fun messing with people like that now that like you've just ripped off that Band-Aid and said it's either an X or a 10, or maybe it'll be something different next time? Who knows?
There was a brief moment when I was like, should we call this Cross of Swords? But no. It's 10 of Swords. It's just called Reign of X. It's just called Reign of X. In the same way that it was not the Dawn of 10.
Yes, but it was also the House of X and the Powers of 10. Y'all set that precedent pretty dang early.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe.
It's 10 men, Zach. 10 men.
10 men.
Yeah,
10 men. And we can never get to 100 men, because that would be bad.
That would be... So it didn't make it into one of our pieces, but I will say that following that Roman numeral scheme... There were people who thought there was a non-zero chance that the White Sword soldiers were the Seamen.
That's it. Yeah, that we should have done that, but we didn't. That's hilarious and really funny.
Listen. No. No. So right now you have the whole Krakoa era, and that's fantastic. We all like it. There's a lot of material coming from past writers. You've done a little bit with the God Loves Man Kills stuff last year. The Paragon collection has new stuff from Chris. Mm-hmm. And you've got things like X-Men Legends and anniversary specials and all these coming through. Is the idea with that to balance this kind of new wild era of X-Men with some nostalgia and some older stuff that, people who may not be digging the Island vibe for whatever reason, Absolutely. They have something to say, well, this is the X-Men before they turned into evil villains, right?
Oh, jeez. Well, until that last part of your statement, I was ready to agree with you wholeheartedly. But
That's fair.
But yes, generally, yes, that is the idea. Like, X-Men is, obviously, we're doing a story about X-Men that we believe in and that we think is great. Not everyone does. That's fine. X-Men is still for them. We don't own X-Men. Well, I mean, Marvel owns X-Men, but when I say we, I mean us, the creators working.
I feel like of the people on this call, you have the biggest claim to owning.
I am currently employed as caretaker of the X-Men, but I don't own them, and I would never try to make them into my personal plaything, because that would make me an irresponsible caretaker. So X-Men is still for those folks who don't like what we're doing. And X-Men has been a lot of things over the years. So it doesn't hurt what we're doing to put out stories about the X-Men of the past and about the previous eras and to celebrate them. Like, obviously we love Chris Claremont X-Men too. Obviously we love, Fabian and Louise and all those folks. They made books that we fell in love with. So we're only too happy to have them working on stuff at the same time. And if that can be X-Men content for fans who aren't as into the Reign of X era now, that's totally cool.
So with that coming, want to talk a bit about next year. 2021's on us.
Yeah, that's true. Jeez Louise.
This will be your 4th year as editor of these lines of books. It will, Jordan, because you started in 2018 where you got things ready for Hoxpox. 2019 launched this whole new era.
Oh my
2020 was about, swords and saving the entire comics book industry single-handedly. So what's
who did that last part?
Listen, I've heard rumors about how these books may sell pretty well.
Yeah, they do all right.
They do pretty good.
I only have the Comicron numbers that are of questionable legitimacy on all aspects.
Sure.
But those seem to show a lot of X-Men content on top. Like Nanny and Orphan Maker are beating the Avengers sometimes. And that's wild.
That is a little weird. But there's other books up there too. We're not single-handed.
There are.
That's for sure. There's a lot of great people doing great comics.
No. So what, in your mind, what's the goal for 2021?
To beat all of those other people. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. To keep just doing awesome X-Men stories. We've got, obviously we've got a bunch of stuff planned already. I can't talk about it too much. We've got new things that people aren't expecting. We've got payoffs for things that people have been waiting for. We've got a really exciting thing. I don't even want to tell you when in the year it is that all of us are working together towards again. Not in the same way that we did on Ten of Swords. We're doing a collaborative thing in a very different way from Ten of Swords, but one that we are all excited about doing, because I think it's something that's been done before, I'm sure, but not a lot and not recently. So we're into the creative stuff that we've got coming out, and some really neat stuff for some characters that haven't been focused on will be getting focused on. Some characters that have been focused on are going to get focused on again. A lot. Without being able to tell you specific things, I can't tell you anything. Well, I don't know what to say.
Well, Zach did devise a little game here. Right, Zach? Just so that, because we know you can't,
I did.
Say it concretely.
You can't say everything. So here's what I've put on paper, Jordan.
All right. Let's try
I have written down things that Marvel has officially said and that have not yet fully developed.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I like this, but let's try it.
Tell them the rules.
All I'm asking is for a hotter or colder. This is definitely right here. This is, we're still working through some details.
Okay. I'll try it.
You can try it.
We'll see how this works.
I threw this on paper because I had some things I needed to just throw out there.
And you're saying it's stuff that Marvel has said.
Marvel may not have put a solicitation in previews, but this is something that that has been communicated through Marvel.
Let's try it.
Let's start with a should be easy one. Children of the Atom.
Oh yeah, hot. Maybe not quite as hot as you think, but hot.
The Excellent.
That's not. I think that's happening. That's not a book I work on.
Oh,
it had an accident. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, totally.
Okay.
That's a book that started in my office when Darren Shan was in my office, but when he moved out, he took it with him.
All right,
cool.
But I'm pretty sure they're still working on
it. I know that on WMQ&A, our sister podcast, we had Peter Milligan said some details about it. So
well, there you go.
So that one, that's the easiest.
No, that was a softball. I see. That was supposed to be a softball. Okay,
that was a softball for you. Weapon Plus. Is there going to be more or less of that? Hotter or colder?
Probably colder.
Fair enough.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, I'm sad to say. I guess I can say this. Yeah, I guess I can say this because it's just a fact. I'm sad to say that the person who was driving that car is no longer at Marvel, which was my terrific coworker and former assistant Chris Robinson. So that was one of his babies, and which is not to say as soon as he left we were like, no, it's just that there wasn't any plans to continue it at that moment, and he's the one who would have been banging the drum to make it happen again, probably.
Okay.
Rest in peace, my beautiful, beautiful child manslaughter.
Hey, you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if he showed up.
The characters are still there.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Now, this was actually printed in a Marvel comic, so I'm just going to throw the words out. X-Corps. Y'all
first
said
of all,
the book was coming.
First of all, you that one you said wrong, and not because it's 10 Corps, but because it's X-Corp. It's not a core. It's a corp.
Listen, there's been both X-Corps and X-Corps at the exact same time in X-Men. It's been a whole thing.
Wait, there was an X-Corpse?
Yes, friggin'
X-Corp. He's putting an S like
no,
not a corpse.
No, hold on.
Is this an Acrocia thing?
No, the Grant Morrison.
Yeah, X-Corp.
Charles Xavier started a whole thing called the X-Corp, the X-Corporation.
Right. Yeah.
At the same time, Banshee started a paramilitary group called X-Corps.
Okay.
Spelled the exact same.
That's hilarious.
Both based in Europe. It was a whole thing.
That's pretty hilarious. Yeah, this one would be Corp. And let's say it's warm. It's warming.
That's
okay.
fine.
All right.
Moira X or Moira 10.
I don't want to say about any temperatures on that one.
That's fine.
That one has 10 different temperatures.
You need to blame Jonathan.
I know.
This last one I really want to know, though.
Well, then I'm very...
What's this one, Zach?
This last one's actually also a softball.
Is it the Alan Moore... What?
No. Sarsaparilla doing something? The modern Alan Moore.
Hey, they've worked together.
Is he doing the Maggot book?
They've worked together. He is not doing a Maggot book. Sorry.
Oh, you're killing me, Jordan.
Hey, why would you even bring him up? I don't even understand in the least.
I don't know.
That makes no sense.
It's not like you guys have done weird things with, British creators being like, hey, what are they doing here?
Well, I don't even know what
Sword
you're
on Sale
about.
Wednesday.
Yes. Obviously, you know what? I've loved working with Sai in the past. He did such great work on Dr. Aphra. I was really, really proud of that
right.
book. And I was sad to leave that one, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the ones I was, again, I took a little slight break when I left the Star Wars books from reading them as they came out. But at some point, months into being an X-Men editor, I went back and read all the things and caught up. And I was so impressed by everything he did there. He was terrific. And I'm super thrilled that he won an award for it.
Good for him.
He got, I believe it's a GLAAD award for it.
That's awesome. I know we have one of our writers, Liz Large, absolutely loves Dr. Aphra as a character, and is pretty much always reading that.
Well, here's the thing. Oh gosh, will it be okay for me to say this? Let me give it a shot. I love flawed characters, and I love effed up characters who make bad decisions. I mean, that's why I enjoy
Dr. Aphra's not a good character.
No, and again,
she's not good.
That's why I loved working on Deadpool for so long. People would talk about how he's a hero, and I'm like, he is terrible, and no one should be like him. But I like reading about him. And Aphra's the same, and I am really thrilled that Kieran was able to pull that off with a lesbian character, because there has often been a preciousness with LGBT characters where it's like, well, they can't do bad things because we have to show that we are positive. And the fact that she's a three-dimensional character. Like she wants things, she loves things, she makes decisions that absolutely bite her on the ass. She has a terrible relationship with oh my god, I just forgot her ex's name. Tolvin. Well, the one with the metal jaw. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I love Aphra, and I'm so thrilled that I got to work on her books for as long as I did. And Sai did an amazing job.
Well, we've got one last question before we throw just a few Twitter ones at your way.
Oh, goodness.
And it is about Star Wars.
Oh, let's hear a Star Wars question. Ooh.
So this is because before you took over X-Men, you were shepherding in this new Star Wars comics era. Mm-hmm. You were doing the first real canon stuff.
Yeah.
Forget that Legends garbage. This is real canon now. So
I don't want to say that because people will get very mad at me, but you're right.
Well, you're about to get very mad at me, Jordan.
Oh, no.
So
all right, let's hear it.
All right. Mad About Me by Figure and Dan in the Modal Nodes was left genre list with the allocation of previous Star Wars canon to the Legends designation. As Jordan D. White, a power player in the world of Star Wars canon, what genre would you consider that iconic track?
Well, we all know the original genre from Legends. We all know what it was called, but now that we're in this new era, how can we say? Until there's a movie about it, until the Star Wars story, the Figure and Dan Star Wars story, comes out, I think we won't know the answer to that. And listen, but you know what? It's from my time watching The Mandalorian, I feel like if Dave Filoni has his say, you'll get your jizz music back. He's bringing a lot of Legends into it.
That's the best answer we could have gotten.
My God. All right, we do have some Twitter questions, right, Zach?
We had a lot. I've cut them down to 5 fairly quick, fairly good ones. If you guys want to ask Twitter questions, just wait for me to ask a question. Say we have a guest, and we're going to ask a few of your guys' questions. Make sure they're not garbage. That's all we ask is don't ask garbage questions. That's all.
We did get a lot of good questions.
We got a lot of good questions.
A lot of good
and we can't ask all of them. But the first one comes to us from our friend Jason Large, who asks, "Would you like some glob snacks?"
I mean, sure, yeah. I've seen pictures of those. Those look delightful.
Those are friend-shaped gummy treats that my child absolutely adores. We'll hook you up.
What's the inside part?
Bones.
They're candy, sugar candy skeleton bones.
Oh, like from those little coffin candies?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It's
I love
a brilliant
it.
creation.
It's very good and very chewy. This comes to us from, he says he's a writer of some degree, Chris Hassan, who asks, why does Chris Hassan only ask bad questions on X-Men Monday?
That's a great question. I think the answer is because since he is a full-time Marvel employee who's in charge of the X-Men, he only wants the X-Men to look good.
Okay.
And if you have any thoughts on the direction of X-Men, just tweet it at him. He'll change things for you.
That's at Chris
Oh, God!
Hassan.
I can't do it! No, obviously that's not true. Please don't believe me. No one believed that. That's not true. That poor guy.
Poor Chris.
Listen. I told him
love
very
Chris.
explicitly, if he asks that, I'm going to make sure I put him on blast. Now this is an anonymous question from the crowd. Angsty X sent this in, and she asked, or I guess this anonymous person in the crowd, excuse me, but she's transcribing this for us.
Oh.
Why put Gambit in the event about the deck of cards? He would have been good. Maybe he'd be waiting for an event like that for a while, so maybe next time you can do that. Sign G.
Oh, man, that's a great question. Well, I think the answer in the real world, rather than in world, is the same as the answer for every other character, which is there's already a lot of freaking characters in this story. Like, come on.
Couldn't find room for more.
And the question in world, I think, is that he has no time for this magic nonsense. I think he is already way more involved than he wanted to be in the build-up during Excalibur, and he could not care less about what Apocalypse wants to accomplish.
Listen, all I know is that you said, hey, here's a deck of cards, and you didn't have the guy who's known for a deck of cards throwing said tarot deck. It's a missed opportunity, but maybe in 11 of Swords, you guys can get to it.
If Gambit charges a tarot card, oh man, I'm saying this out loud, and I really should be typing it to Teeny. If Gambit charges a tarot card, and he's like involved in mutant magic, can he be like charging it with potential fate energy, and then he throws it at someone, and then that thing comes true for them. I don't know.
Hey, sounds like a pitch.
Now we're talking.
Sounds.
Now we're talking.
That's a fun idea.
All right. This one is from at Mojo's work, and he asks, has there been a breakout character, creator, or even story/series that you didn't see coming or didn't expect to have such an impact either within the universe or among fans?
Oh, that's fascinating. I know the answer is yes. Let me think about it. Well, okay. Here's the easy answer is no. I had no idea people were going to go crazy for a giant crocodile guy.
Yeah, how didn't you know that?
No, I did not.
He's a 6-armed crocodile.
He looks really
man.
cool, but I didn't think people would get that crazy about him.
I
His
literally
name is
commissioned
Pog or
art
Pog.
from him before he appeared on page.
That was surprising to me. This is what I'm saying. I was shocked. No, I was surprised by the reaction before the comic came out. That's what I mean. Like, people just saw him
Right.
once and went like, wow! And that's great. I did not see it coming. But that's the easy answer. Let me think about, like, real story-wise stuff. I mean, I think that it didn't happen in a moment that was like, oh my God, that happened. But I think it happened slowly and surely. He became more and more and more and more and more important and central. Just how important and invested everyone became in Apocalypse and his wants and needs. Like when we cast him in Excalibur, I don't want to say it was a lark, but it was a little bit of a lark. Like it was in the sense that we were like talking about like what the book was about and what it was. And I think it was TD's idea. So maybe she was planning it the whole time that she wanted him for that reason. But like the idea of like him as someone who's pursuing magic, we were like, oh, that's cool. But all of the reasons that he was super important to everything that we just did for the last 2 months, those things didn't exist. Or at least not in the way that they ended up existing. And like I said, it's all stuff that happened like a centimeter at a time. So it didn't feel like something crazy was happening until afterwards when you look back and you go, wow, oh my God, like Apocalypse just like made people feel emotions. And like, that's crazy.
He's a wife guy. He's a wife guy.
Yeah, it was weird that Blue Dad Wife Guy Apocalypse was a thing and it worked.
Yeah.
Like, I saw us making jokes. I did not see that actually, like, being emotionally impactful.
Yeah.
But I guess that's why I am not Teeny Howard.
Anybody else? Well, I mean, the answer is, and then there's also, I guess it depends on at what point you're asking from, because if you ever said to me, hey, what do you think about a book starring Orphan Maker and Nanny and Grey Crow and Empath and I don't know, maybe we'll throw Havoc in there, I would have been like, what? Like, no, that's not a book. That's not a book we would do. What are you talking about? And then Zeb pitched it, and I was like, wait, is he really pitching this? And then I read what he wanted to do, and I was like, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah.
And even after I said, let's do this book, I don't think I realized how this book was going to be and what it was going to be like and how great it is. It's terrific. He's amazing. He's really, really
I was
great.
excited about Nanny. I was not expecting there to have a part where Nanny becomes even more Nanny.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
Though I will say I read this week's issue and I did not see Silvermane. When can we expect Silvermane to join the team?
Yeah, the Resurrection Protocols. She's fine, right? No one dies anymore.
Is she a mutant? And also, if she came back, she died. If she died on another world, man. So she's gonna come back thinking she's a frog or something.
Oh man.
Listen,
or
if Betsy can come back as a frog, then everyone can.
Or
she was a swan, frog, bear, other kind of bear. It was a lot.
Maybe she was rescued by her presumed father, the gangster Silvermane.
All right, you got it. Zach's got at least one more for you, right?
This is the last one. This is from Sailor Wentz.
Oh.
Dear Jordan, which it starts out that way. Why do you love Cable and hate Chibiusa? They're basically the same, but she has fewer guns and pockets. Is that it? Does Sailor Chibi Moon just need more guns and pockets?
Now, okay, so I don't know how much, if this person is referencing my other podcast. This is now my podcast.
I'm going to assume much.
Because we do talk a lot about calling Chibiusa Cable, and all the outer Senshi are X-Force. Because if you don't know Sailor Moon, there's the original core Sailor Scouts, or Sailor Senshi, depending on which version you're talking about, who are, all good-natured, power, friendship, and love. And then there are the outer Senshi who come in, who are Sailor Uranus, Sailor Neptune, Sailor Saturn, Sailor Pluto, who Sailor Uranus and Neptune literally come into the thing going, hey, we're here to murder somebody. Our plan is to murder somebody to save. That's the best way to save things. And Sailor Moon is like, how about we don't? And they're like, you're a wuss. Get out of our way. We're going to murder somebody. And so it was very much that classic X-Men X-Force dynamic where it was the X-Men are good and they don't kill. And X-Force is like, sometimes you gotta kill. And by the way, spoiler, they didn't need to kill. The Sailor Scouts were right and the Outer Senshi were wrong. But we talked a lot about them being X-Force and Chibiusa being their Cable because she's their child from the future. Now, here's the thing. That's a fun joke, but let's get serious. Let's get serious for a minute about this.
Let's.
Because for all that I say, I hate Chibiusa. I really, really hate Chibiusa. But the reason I hate Chibiusa is because she's mean to Sailor Moon, who is the best. If Cable came back and all the time he was sitting there going F you, Cyclops, you're the worst, and making Cyclops miserable all the time, I might not like him as much. But right now they have such a lovely family dynamic going on.
They really do.
It's heartwarming. Now, of course, everybody says, yeah, but that eventually happens with Sailor Moon and Chibiusa. Too bad. I don't care. I still hate her. She's the worst. She's the worst.
This has been a fascinating
brutally honest,
and sprawling discussion. But I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully our listeners have too. Jordan, you mentioned you got the sailor business that you do. Anything else you want to plug besides telling people to read more X books? I think that's what my magic decoder card here says to do. I don't know.
Definitely read more X books. Yeah, I mean, again, we've got so much crazy stuff cooking for the next year. We're really excited about it. Things that people have no idea about, or that you don't even know that you don't have an idea about. Some of it. That's how out of left field it is. But beyond that, if you love Sailor Moon, we've done 190 something episodes of Sailor Business, watching Sailor Moon and then talking about each 22-minute episode for an hour and a half each at least, which is ridiculous and preposterous, but we had a good time. So you should check that out. Sailor Business.
Well, good. I won't be, because even though I do enjoy many of the Chris Sims family of podcasts, I don't care about Sailor Moon, Jordan. I'm going to be honest.
I have heard from fans who don't and have never watched Sailor Moon, who have followed the series through me and Chris talking about it, which is also ridiculous, but that's fun. I'm happy to do it.
I can't imagine that I wouldn't be like, well, now I have to watch Sailor Moon now as a 30-year-old man with children. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like that's a weird way to start to get into Sailor Moon.
That's your excuse, man. You show it to the children.
Yes, it absolutely is. Oh, wait, no, dang it. Shoot, he does love My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, which I have heard is Horse Sailor Moon.
I couldn't get into. So there you are.
Listen, I've got the 4-year-old, and he has been obsessed with it over the last little bit. I do not. More power to him. Unrelated to all that, you can find everything that we're doing on Twitter at XavierFiles or at XavierFiles.com. That's where you get all the latest and greatest X-Men news, content, bad lists about dumb things that we make up. Also things that aren't X-Men. We have a whole thing about King in Black that is exciting. Other books are coming. Daredevil. Read our thing about Daredevil that just came out this week, because Daredevil 25 rules, and y'all should check that out.
It's a great run.
Listen, have you? I know you work there. You know what the thing in Daredevil 25?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I showed my wife and I said, I know you don't care. Look at this. And she said, wait, what's this big thing? Is Daredevil? I said, yes, but also no, because Daredevil's in prison as Daredevil, but Matt Murdock's not.
Oh,
That's great.
So fun.
It's a good run. Hey, Adam, where can people find you on these internets?
You guys can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. And if you want to donate to the Patreon, it's patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. Zach, what are we doing next week?
Well, next week, since all of our Primo Marvel cash has run dry, we are going to have to go back to the well of our listener requests and come up with something good. But I think we've got something nice because we're going to be talking about the Power Pack.
Yeah.
Lee Simonson, June Brigman. It's good stuff.
But there's no mutants in that book.
Well, these have some X-Men in them.
I'm kidding.
These
This is a joke.
Listen. There were mutants in those books until last month. That's not your office. I'm gonna keep that out of here.
Jordan, thank you so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure. It was a good time. I had fun. I'm sorry I babbled so much.
Great catching up with you, buddy.
No, it was great. But until then, guys, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!